Do you know what the secret of life is?
No, what?
This.
Your finger?
One thing. Just one thing. You stick to that and everything else don't mean shit.
That's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out.
Like money and investing, we tend to overcomplicate life. We feel like we need to do 20 tasks per day, or we're not being productive. We feel like we need to do 12 fun-filled activities with the kids over the weekend, or we're not being a good parent. We feel like we need to see 100 countries before we turn 40 years old, or we haven't really experienced the world. However, in order to have a healthy and productive life, we don't need to make life complicated. Most often, simple is better. Less is better. One is better. So I want to share with you 10 of my favorite lessons from the one thing, the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results. My number one favorite lesson from the one thing. Success is sequential, not simultaneous. We tend to think that people who accomplish a lot in their lives were because they did a lot of things all at once. Instead of starting one business, they started 5. Instead of competing in one race, they participated in 8. I mean, look at serial entrepreneurs or athletes who excel in multiple sports and race. But the truth is that while on surface, the serial entrepreneur or the multi-talented athlete looks like they're doing a bunch of things simultaneously, they actually develop them over time, and most often, one at a time, sequentially. Therefore, when it comes to doing tasks and projects, don't try to do 5 things at once. Instead, identify your most important project and work on that one thing until that is done. And then once that's done, then move on to the next item. That's how extraordinary people accomplish extraordinary things, and that's how we can do it as well. Number 2 favorite lesson from the one thing. Concentration results in extraordinary results. It is those who concentrate on about one thing at a time who advance in this world. When we look at extraordinary companies, they often always have one product or one service that they're most known for. And that one product or service makes them the most money. For example, Microsoft and the Windows operating system. Microsoft first released Windows in 1985, and within a matter of years, it quickly became the dominant operating system for personal computers. This one product alone set the stage for Microsoft's global influence in the software market. Or how about Apple and the iPhone? Apple has a lot of products that it sells. MacBooks, AirPods, and most recently, the Apple Vision Pro. However, the iPhone still stands as Apple's most valuable product. Since its launch in 2008, it is still Apple's main source of its income, responsible for 52% of its overall revenue. And Nvidia, the most talked about company the past couple of years. We can't leave out Nvidia when we're talking about tech companies. In mid-2023, it surpassed the $1 trillion mark, surpassing Amazon and Alphabet, Google's parent company, taking its position as the 3rd largest public company in the US. However, its greatest source of revenue comes from one business unit, the data center. This unit includes the company's H100 graphics card that is widely used to power generative AI apps such as OpenAI ChatGPT, and accounts for close to 78% of its total revenue source. Yes, I know. If that one product or service that these companies focus on was a crappy product, this whole theory wouldn't work. It would actually be a disaster. However, the fact is that these companies took intentional efforts to focus, and that brought them extraordinary results. Alright, you might be saying, I get it regarding these companies. How is that relevant to me? Which leads to the next point. The number 3 favorite lesson from the one thing. The surprisingly simple truth about extraordinary results. Ask a great question. The key to getting extraordinary results is not only about doing that one thing really well, but doing the right one thing. And the path to doing the right one thing starts with the right question. Voltaire, a French Enlightenment writer, once said, "Judge a man by his questions rather than his answers." Sir Francis Bacon, an English philosopher, added, "A prudent question is one half of wisdom." And Indira Gandhi, the former Prime Minister of India, concluded that the power to question is the basis of all human progress. Bottom line, great questions are the starting place for great answers and thus extraordinary results. So in relation to identifying our one thing, what is a great question? The authors recommend asking ourselves the focusing question. Today, what's the one thing I can do for my one thing, such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Extraordinary results don't happen by accident. They're results of decisions that we make in our lives, intentional decisions. Thus, we want to get really good at asking this focusing question on a regular basis. What is the one thing I can do today that will make everything easier or unnecessary? Not 2 or 3 things, but one thing. And what is one task that will have the greatest leverage, the greatest impact? I know, not an easy answer, because usually hard answers require hard questions. The key is not to get overwhelmed. You want to start getting into the practice of asking this focusing question on a regular basis. And with more practice, you'll get better. All right, now that you understand the importance of the one thing, let's get into some practical tips. Number 4 favorite lesson from the one thing. Practice selective discipline. We have this mythical belief that a successful person is a ridiculously disciplined person in everything that they do. They wake up at 4 a.m., take an ice-cold bath, work out for 2 hours, write for 4 hours, eat standing up, work for another 5 hours, play with the kids for 3 hours, and then sleep. However, contrary to this myth, success doesn't require us to be disciplined in everything that we do. That is actually a sure recipe for a mental and physical breakdown. And to be honest, someone that says they live like this, I'm not sure if that's the type of person that I want to hang out with. If we want to achieve success in our most important one thing, what we need to do is get good at selective discipline. Success is about doing the right thing, not about doing everything right. When Michael Phelps was a child, he was diagnosed with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. His kindergarten teacher told his mother that Michael would never be able to focus on anything because he couldn't sit still and be quiet. Well, he did learn to focus, and focus really well at that. By the time he retired after the 2012 London Olympics, Michael Phelps had earned a total of 22 medals, making him the most decorated Olympian in any sport history. Despite being diagnosed with ADHD, he was able to develop ridiculous focus muscles by practicing selective discipline. From age 14, Michael spent up to 6 hours in the water every day, channeling all his energy towards one discipline: swimming. He didn't try to become disciplined in everything in life. He narrowed his focus to this one thing through selective discipline, and that led him to achieve extraordinary results. Number 5 favorite lesson from the one thing. Recognize that multitasking is a lie. Steve also, an award-winning photographer, once said, multitasking is merely the opportunity to screw up more than one thing at a time. We tend to gravitate towards multitasking because we sense a burst of dopamine from switching. It's really hard and really boring to focus on a task. Thus, when we run into a writer's block, we check our email. When we're stuck in the middle of our workout, we scroll Instagram. When we're in a seemingly boring meeting, we start working on that PowerPoint slide we've been slacking off on. And we might pat ourselves in the back afterwards, saying, great job. You did 2 things at once. You replied to email at the same time writing that piece. You posted yourself working out on Instagram while actually getting a workout done. And you participated in that meeting while at the same time finishing your presentation. However, if we're honest with ourselves, then we feel a little crappy afterwards. We got a lot of stuff done, but not any of them really well. That is because multitasking is a lie. Yes, I know, some of us can drive and talk at the same time, walk and text at the same time. However, we're not actually doing 2 things at once. We're switching from one task to the other. Multitasking leads to poor choices, stress, and most importantly, ineffective outcomes. So when working on your one thing, focus on that one thing and nothing else. Number 6 favorite lesson from the one thing. Another lie that you want to be aware of. Recognize a balanced life is a lie. Many of us have another one of these mythical beliefs that we need to have a perfectly balanced life, where everything gets the appropriate amount and attention, a perfectly linear line. However, when you act on priority and focus, things will go out of balance. That's part of the process. If you really want to achieve your most important things, at times you will go out of balance. The key is to recognize that this is part of the process. And while you can't or shouldn't strive for a perfect balance at all times, you can have a healthy life by practicing what the authors call counterbalance. Let's say you spent a whole week apart from your partner because you were focused on finishing up that novel you've been working on. Or because you're getting ready for an important race, you spent all your morning the past 2 months not being able to see your kids when they woke up. Well, once that novel is complete or that race is done, counterbalance the time away by spending more time with your partner and at home. Simply, when you're supposed to be working, work. And when you're supposed to be playing, play. Number 7 favorite lesson from the one thing. Another tool to help us focus. Practice time blocking. Alexander Graham Bell once said, concentrate all your thoughts upon the work at hand. The sun's rays do not burn until brought to a focus. Time blocking is simply the act of blocking out time for your most important things. And most effective people are excellent at it. They actually work their whole day around after they've time blocked their most important task. If their one thing is to work out, they time block workout time on their calendar. If their one thing is to write, they time block writing time on their calendar. And if their one thing is to spend quality time with their partner, they not only time block a date night with their partner, they reserve a romantic restaurant weeks ahead. Additionally, productive people are ruthless about it. If you want to get your most important one thing done, you have to be okay letting the many other non-essential items fall to the sideline. Paperwork, email, meetings, etc. Be okay being bad at those things. Only when you're okay being bad at these things that are not your one thing, can you really make headway with your most important task. Focus is a matter of deciding what things you're not going to do. Number 8 favorite lesson from the one thing. The surprisingly simple truth about extraordinary results. Shape your environment to support your goals. Your environment includes everything from the people that you see to desks that you sit on. And most often, we don't think too much about our environment when pursuing our goals. The people that we talk to on a daily basis or the desk that we sit on. However, if we want to really focus on our one thing, we have to actively think about our environment. None of us live in isolation, and people around us either directly or indirectly affect our mood, our attitude, and ultimately our ability to focus and perform. We may not think much about the desk that we sit on every day, but our work environment has a tremendous impact on our creativity and productivity. So do an audit of your environment. The people that you interact with on a daily basis, do they drain you or do they delight you? Your work environment, does it excite you or does it depress you? It's very important that you cultivate a work environment that really pulls you forward instead of pulling you back. Make sure that the people around you and your physical surroundings support your goals. The right people in your life and the right physical environment on your daily path will support your effort to get your one thing. When both are in alignment with your one thing, they'll supply the optimism and the physical lift you need to make your one thing happen. Number 9 favorite lesson from the one thing. Recognize that extraordinary results require big energy. If we want to get our one thing done, it's not enough to identify our one thing, shape our environment, and ruthlessly focus. We need to think about our energy level. How do we get big energy? Because in order to get our one thing done, it requires a tremendous amount of energy. The way I like to think about it is treat our bodies and our minds like a race car that needs good maintenance. The authors recommend the following daily energy plan that I really like. 1. Meditate and pray for spiritual energy. 2. My personal favorite. Eat right, exercise, and sleep sufficiently for physical energy. 3. Hug, kiss, and laugh with loved ones for emotional energy. 4. Set goals, plan, and calendar for mental energy. For me, writing down my goals and my one thing on my whiteboard really helps with my motivation. And 5. Time block your one thing for business energy. Powerful engines need cooling down and resting before taking off again, and you are no different. Number 10 and final favorite lesson from the one thing. Follow the path to mastery. Mastery is not a destination you arrive at, rather it is a journey. A never-ending journey of greater experience and expertise. When we're talking about this one thing, it's easy to get into the mindset that once we accomplish this one thing, mission accomplished, it is over, right? However, we have to constantly remind ourselves that this one thing is just a stepping stone in a journey called life. According to legend, when Jigoro Kano, the founder of judo, was approaching death, he asked to be buried in his white belt. If you know anything about martial arts, the white belt symbolizes a birth or beginning of a person's will to acquire the skills of their study. It is worn by those who are just beginning their journey. Jigoro Kano was not a beginner when it came to judo, yet he embraced the symbol of a beginner at his death, because to him, the journey of the successful lifelong learner was never over. Mastery is a pursuit that keeps giving because it's a path that never ends. Thank you guys for watching, and in the spirit of mastery, if you're in your 40s and if you'd like to learn some habits and skills to master before you're 40, please check out my video here. Until next time, all the best.